please talk about how your vice president, who is running for the presidency, has worked on these crises and what role she has played over the past several days?
Well, I'm in constant contact with her. She's aware we're singing from the same song sheet. She helped pass all the laws that are being employed now. She was a major player in everything we've done, including passage of legislation which we were told we could never pass. And so she's been, and her staff is interlocked with mine in terms of all the things we're doing.
Stop helping.
The Kamala Harris campaign keeps hitting more and more snags, and many of them, of course, are from their own poor decision-making. And what we're starting to see now is the results being revealed even by the left-wing media sources. So before we get into these clips, please like and comment on the video so we can break through the algorithms. Here we go.
One of the numbers we always talk about in elections is, do voters think the country is on the right track or the wrong track? What do the polls show?
Yeah, if we look at whether voters believe we're on the right track or the wrong track, I think that this sort of gets at a problem for Kamala Harris's campaign. Just 28% of Americans think the U.S. is on the right track. And I want you to put that into perspective, right? When does the average, when the incumbent party loses the election, look at that. It's just 25%. That looks a heck of a lot like that 28%, right, that currently think the country is on the right track. When the White House party wins, i.e. Kamala Harris's party, the Democrats, 42% on average think that the country is on the right track. This 25% looks a lot more like this 28%. It doesn't look anything like this 42%. This, to me, is a bad sign for Kamala Harris's campaign. The bottom line is it looks a lot more like a loser than it does like a winner when it comes to the country being on the right track.
Can an incumbent party win with numbers like this?
Yeah, so if we look historically speaking, right, and we say, okay, say the U.S. is on the right track, the incumbent party, when they win. Today, again, it's just 28%. Look throughout history, right? 96, 88, 04, 12, 84. In all of these instances, far more than 28% thought that the country was on the right track. 39 was the lowest back in 1996. We got upwards of 47% in 84. Of course, that was a blowout, right, for Ronald Reagan. So there is no historical precedent for the White House party winning another term in the White House when just 28% of the country thinks that we're on the right track. John, simply put, it would be historically unprecedented.
So the classic right track, wrong track question, right? Where are we standing? 28% think we're on the right track. And that's got to be the blind Democrats and the woke mob, right? Because everybody else out there is saying, oh, we don't like the prices. We don't like the wide open borders. We don't like the global instability. And none of this is making us feel better about our own lives as Americans. So clearly, Kamala Harris would lose in this regard. However, if voters don't actually associate her with the current presidency, then we would have a problem, right? This is all about incumbency. And Biden, of course, has been replaced for obvious reasons, and Kamala Harris is the one doing the replacing. So hopefully voters will associate them together because obviously she has been lockstep with Biden the entire time. But of course, Kamala Harris continues running into trouble because of all of her past statements, past positions, and current policies. Let's check this out over from the Morning Joe.
How could they not vote for Kamala Harris? What they're seeing, and I saw it this weekend while I was watching football games, commercial after commercial after commercial after commercial of Kamala Harris in 2019 saying that she supported federal funding for transition operations.
She's a radical. She's a communist.
And they get quotes from her in 2019 where she was trying to be more woke than anybody else in 2019. And I think the campaign's done a good job cleaning a lot of that stuff up. They need to look at the commercials that are being run over and over and over again.
Yes.
Because, again, it's not you or me in Florida or New York that they need to worry about. It's the guys in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. To underline this fact, that Kamala Harris needs help in this area. You had more, I thought, very surprising news yesterday, and not good news for the Harris campaign, that the firefighters, who were Joe Biden's most strident supporters, the firefighters union followed the Teamsters union and decided they weren't going to get involved in the presidential race. Again, it could have been much worse. They could have done what the Teamsters have done in the past and endorsed a Republican president, but they did not do that yesterday.
Yeah, the firefighters union endorsed Joe Biden in April of 2019. In the very early days of his campaign. They were immediately on board for him. Yesterday, they announced they're not going to endorse at all. There was a close vote of its members, and they opted, much like the Teamsters, to not back at all. And that is reflective of what is becoming a growing concern among Democrats and the Harris campaign, that she is indeed struggling with male voters, in particular working class, blue collar, and often white male voters, and that there needs to be more outreach to those groups. These are groups that over the last few years have started to break towards Trump. These non-college educated voters are breaking Republican. They're breaking Trump. And it's a growing sign of concern.
And by the way, we showed the Tim Walz and J.D. Vance numbers after the debate and showed how it was pretty much a draw, even though Walz's approval ratings went up far more. But you look at the crosstabs of white male voters without a college degree, J.D. Vance won overwhelmingly. So if J.D. Vance is running around like wall the wall, a lot of America may be looking at the cat memes. When J.D. Vance goes to rural areas in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, he's getting warm welcomes, and he messages much better there than Tim Walz does.
So the messaging for the Trump campaign is pretty simple. Show Kamala Harris in her own words what she actually believed, what she actually has been saying for the last several years, because it's only been in the last 6 months that all of a sudden she's trying to turn things around and become a moderate, a centrist. And hopefully it's not going to work, because there's video evidence out there that we're playing during football games. And who is this affecting the most? The working class. The people who are out there seeing their wages stagnate and their dollar not stretch as far, while the price of everything explodes around them. And they say, I don't like this new normal. Instead, I want to go back to when times were good, back to the times under Donald Trump. And that, of course, is why you start to see all of this coincidental persecution against Donald Trump right before the election by Jack Smith. Check this out.
This is what's unusual about the way this whole thing has played out. The brief we saw last night, procedurally, it's all backwards. The way it works, you've been in the prosecutor's chair. You get your indictment as a prosecutor. Then the defense says, here's the motions I'm going to make to try to dismiss. Jack Smith here said, I want to go first and I want to speed it up. And Judge Chutkan agreed with him. And that's why we've now seen this document 30-some days before the election. They really flipped ordinary procedure on its head here to get it done.
Well, that's why Trump is quoting you on Truth Social today. Yeah. You titled this Jack Smith's October cheap shot.
Yeah, I stand by that. Look, Jack Smith took the established normal procedures of any case and he said, I want to go first. Judge Chutkan said, this is an unusual request, and then let him do it. There's no reason to speed it up. There's no reason to flip it unless you, as Jack Smith, believe, well, the American public needs to see this before the election. That's not your job as a prosecutor, and I argue in the piece it violates longstanding DOJ policy to do anything with an election in mind.
And I must, if I could, Caitlin, I want to go back to what Elie said on the Jack Smith, which I must vigorously disagree with the contents of Elie's article. I don't think what Jack Smith here has done is abnormal. The DOJ rule reference about taking actions within 60 days is informal law.
That's not the right rule. That's not the right rule.
You're talking about a rule that I'm not talking about. If I could, I think what I found problematic in that article, it suggests that Jack Smith is purposely trying to impact the election. It suggests that Jack Smith going first is so abnormal because it's putting some kind of mens rea, which is state of mind in Jack Smith.
How many times did you ever file your motion first before there was a motion to dismiss as a prosecutor?
How many times how many times have I ever prosecuted a former president for these crimes? This is a unique circumstance. The Supreme Court.
You can't just say the rules are thrown out because he's really bad. Then there's no principles.
What I'm saying is that a conservative Supreme Court told Jack Smith, take this back to Judge Chutkan and do exactly what he's doing now.
They did not say you go first, you rush it. The way motions work, you know this. The defense makes the motion first. They get to say, here's the basis. It got flipped on its head. And let me talk about the delay issue. How long did it take DOJ to charge this case? How long did it take DOJ to charge this case?
Listen,
hold on. My turn now.
Go ahead.
2.5 years. You're saying Donald Trump delayed because he, as a criminal defendant, raises a constitutional defense, which goes to the Supreme Court, and he wins? That's not delay. That's a criminal defendant vindicating his constitutional rights. The delay here is on DOJ. They didn't leave Jack Smith enough runway. He has done nothing but frantically expedite at every step of this case. You can't tell me it has nothing to do with trying to get it in before the election. And the rule, the real rule here, it's section 98.500 says, as a prosecutor, you cannot take any action People say, oh, it only means charging decisions. No, the rule says any action with an eye to the election. Sally Yates said it was inappropriate to do just this a few years ago. If you had a problem with what James Comey did in 2016, you have to have a problem with this.
So clearly to all of us, this is election interference. We all know the case is not going to go to trial before the election. So there was no purpose, no need to actually releasing any of this information in advance of the trial because, as was just mentioned, the DOJ should not be taking any action with an eye towards the election, which is what this all seems to be like to me. But thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and stay safe out there, people. Sarah coming after you.